can the scapegoat become the golden child? I've always been the scapegoat in my family, but sometimes it feels like they praise me when it benefits them. Is it possible to permanently escape being the scapegoat, or will I always end up back in that role?
Nothing is consistent with a narcissist. And so the short answer to that is don't ever expect everything to stay status quo. It won't. You will cycle around to different roles. And I mean, it's about learning how to be indifferent to whatever label or whatever attention that the narcissistic parent is giving you, because it is a game. And I think people need to remember this all the time. It is not about how the narcissist is defining you and how they are treating you. It's about you coming back to a sense of who you are and the values and the things that matter to you, because otherwise they're just intent on just using the family members in that game of their needs, the power dynamics within the family, destabilizing people's confidence and security in what they think their role is to make themselves feel their identity. Like that identity piece is just never really achieved because it's dependent on somebody that wants to shuffle those roles all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Do you think that this praise that this in this comment it was mentioned in there that sometimes they praise me, it feels like sometimes they praise me when it benefits them. So can praise be a form of control to make this scapegoat perhaps like more compliant? That sometimes they praise them that like it's intentionally used as a form of control. Can that happen?
Oh my God, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because, the person in the family is just so vulnerable to whatever morsels, breadcrumbs that they can get from a narcissist in order to feel like, and if it's successful, if there's something positive about the attention, they'll do it. When I used to teach in groups in a recovery center, and we would do groups on these roles, right? And I remember looking at some of the clients, and it was quite sad because you could see that veil lifting when they realized that in a way they were groomed to be a scapegoat, because in a way it helped to protect the parent. They could take on the role of feeling like the parent can't be that bad if I'm so bad, and I'm reckless and I'm whatever, and that helps me bond with the parent because in some way they value the fact that I end up being the person that is bearing all of the problems and keeping the attention off of them. It's really twisted when you hear some of the stories that people have when they feel celebrated for being a mess. And then equally, yeah, it's really quite bizarre. But anyway, and then realizing that they have lost a chance to really, be something different than the scapegoat because of what that role meant to the narcissist. But again, very quickly going into another role is very common because it's still about what do you need and what makes me feel connected to you in some manner.
Yeah.
Diabolical.
And I think also one big piece about narcissistic families, and that explains kind of why these roles shift and why is it possible for the scapegoat to become a child and vice versa, is there is a lot of triangulation going
That's
on
right.
as well. So you can
Yeah.
create competition between siblings and
Yep.
different family members. Also,
Yeah.
this again goes back to the inconsistency piece when there is all of a sudden sometimes competition,
Yeah.
it creates uncertainty. And that definitely is also an effective way to make sure that the siblings, for example, in this case, wouldn't like kind of team up and stand up
That's right.
together,
That's right.
keep
That's
divided,
right.
everyone divided. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that. That's exactly it. It's about creating consistent inconsistency and confusion and things always shifting in a moment, perhaps, right? So, absolutely. So, whatever they have to do, they will do it, which is why things can be going along quite well for a while and everything can feel good. And all of a sudden, there can be a disruption in whatever those dynamics are and feel very off-putting. But nonetheless, it's still serving the narcissist in some way because it's taking the attention off them and they can sit back and look at the children if that's what's happening and say, you guys are a mess. What's wrong with you?
Mm.
You guys are always fighting. You're always, like they can point at the children and just continue to feel elevated and superior because they're creating a mess with the children with these shifting roles and what they're celebrating and what they're devaluing. It's, yeah,
Yeah. I also saw this sentence like because in this like question it was like so can the scapegoat become the golden child? So short answer yes. And then like am I permanently going to be like the scapegoat? And you already answered that well, that, well, it's really permanent. But I think I saw the sentence, it's really permanent because it's not about you. It's
that's
about,
right.
the
Yeah,
narcissistic parent always needing someone to project their negative feelings onto. So
yeah, yeah,
I think that was
yeah.
kind of well said.
Yeah. And it's sad because again, some of my clients, they will give you little hints in a session and they will say, well, that's what my father always told me, or that's what my mother always said about me, or whatever, right? And then you can see even as adults, these little slips they make, which, kind of if you stop them and say, did you hear what you just said? Like you're giving us a hint that your personality or who you are is based on what someone told you you were, rather than you actually developing a sense of who you were.
Mm,
And so it really causes people to feel quite confused again about what role they are. If they've been relying on somebody kind of telling them, well, that's who you are. So anyway, it's still about a person understanding until the day you die, there's always an opportunity for you to pull away from that and
mm,
really do some work on yourself to figure out who you actually are, not the roles that the narcissist has assigned to you in
yeah.
different times.
So in a way, from the narcissist's perspective, and maybe in their world, you can never escape that role because because it's about them. They need someone to project their stuff onto. But escaping the scapegoat role permanently is possible, but it
Yeah,
means that you have to yourself
yeah,
kind of creating that emotional and physical distance usually,
yeah,
and
yeah.
limiting contact, and kind of like you said, work on not understanding that those labels that they have given to you, they don't mean anything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I don't want to get too far off here, but when I think about people, say, in recovery or, they're trying to address things that will improve their life, and oftentimes that sabotage piece that comes in is because there's such a core belief inside, if they've been the scapegoat in the family, to feel like, I don't deserve good things. I can't tolerate positive regard for myself. I can't tolerate positive things happening in my life because I've been conditioned to feel like I'm a loser, I'm a mess, I'm a problem. I'm the one that always screws things up. Whatever that conditioning is really creates that intolerance that when the person as an adult is trying to really reclaim the things that they deserve, they can feel an automatic tension inside of this isn't who I am, though. I'm not supposed to have, a healthy relationship. I'm not supposed to have a stable job. I'm not supposed to be sober. I'm not supposed to be whatever, right? Because there's a sense of I was always such a mess because that's who I am. I'm a person who was always a mess and a
Mm,
problem.
yeah. And that makes it so heartbreaking that so you kind of, even if you, let's say, you limit contact or you kind of launch into your adult life, you have your own home now, a kind of own life, but you
Yeah,
might still continue that scapegoat role
yeah,
because of
yeah,
that conditioning and those beliefs.
yeah,
So you kind
yeah,
of yourself kind of it makes it harder for you yourself remove yourself from that role. And
yeah,
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 that's
absolutely.
okay.
Sad, very sad.